As a quick summary in terms of a response to these types of videos, I think obviously there are various things at play, from yes, technological advancements with social media and making it unnecessary almost to go out there and to communicate in person with people. There are many other aspects involved that pertain to the individuals. Now, in this video, I'm going to discuss why this scenario is somewhat different for various black people, particularly in the Western world, from social economics to some aspects of discrimination, and why and how it can negatively affect your ability to make friends, your ability to form relationships, your ability to procreate. Off the bat, when I see these type of videos in general, the first thought that comes to my mind is that, were you prideful in your ability to be by yourself, to be a loner? Did you take a lot of pride in not needing others and relying solely on yourself? You know, this is an aspect that I was tackling many times in the past, and I always raise the question, especially as introverts too, because introverts are particularly prone to voicing this type of pride. And so many people end up without the friendships that they wish they had because of this mentality, because of being proud of being the loner. Also have a negative portrayal of the human race. You know, I've met various people who had this sentiment of, I hate people, I can't stand people, this is why I don't want to do things with people. And I think overall that's just a bad attitude to have. In my opinion, the greatest commodity of this planet are human beings. The core of any friendship or relationship is respect. If you don't respect people in general, it's going to be very hard for you to hold on to commitments. It could be with regards to elements of faithfulness, being honest, being trustworthy. You know, are you going to snake someone and talk behind their back because, you know, you don't really have a high regard for people, so you don't care, so it might all be a game to you, right? Or do you keep your word? Do you hold and keep secrets? Do you really want to help others? You know, another reason why a lot of people fall into this chasm of zero friendship is there's a lot of usury. You know, these days, especially on the internet, the idea of social clout is gaining traction. And so now people view having a group or having a clique as something that will elevate their own lives. So this is where you start to see people who just use a group, who want to join and gain access to a group for their own personal gain. There is no thinking of helping others, right? There is no providing a service and providing value for other people. You know, very much so these days, it's a me kind of society and time. And it's that selfish demeanor that leaves people lonely. In some cases, right? I'm not going to say all cases, but I find often people who feel like they don't attain what they want in life were people who just didn't have the right mindset, or were people that didn't have the ability to introspect and to fully understand what they were craving. I've met people, again, who had this negative view of people, but really deep down I can see that they were yearning for someone who could understand them on a deeper level. You know, someone who can see things their way. But again, it's a give and take. With any relationship, it's a give and take. You know, that type of bond can't be facilitated when you despise humanity, when you dislike people, when you're not interested in people, you keep to yourself. But the main point of this video now is to discuss aspects that particularly affect the black community in the Western societies, right? And the only reason why I speak about this subject a lot is because it's a different dynamic that requires a lot of analysis. And I think with regards to recent migrations, I don't think we have the data to determine its effects on populations, on people, especially here in the UK, with most immigrants coming post World War II. So for me, many of these effects start from childhood. When you have strict parents who feel like beating their children is a good thing and will render positive effects. When you have parents like these, often it renders the person who was on the receiving end of this treatment to just be riddled with anxieties. In the realm of friends and relationships, this could mean not initiating an interaction, being a homebody, because you're nervous, you're riddled with anxiety. And the thing is, a lot of our nervous systems, a lot of the way we think is determined in our childhood. And this anxiety, this nervousness will just pose great difficulty when it comes to intimacy, comes to being vulnerable, opening up, because this could lead to how strong your bond will be in these relationships, in these friendships. How much of yourself are you willing to give? For me, open honesty is the cure for so many things in this regard, because we all go through the same things, and we live in such a society now where many of us are guarded. Many of us can't even express our true opinions. We have to filter them. You can't, underneath this video, you can't comment what you truly want to comment, because it might just get deleted by YouTube. But then again, you're an immigrant, and now you're going to be living and being raised in a poor environment. Now, a poor environment doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad environment, right? But in most cases than not, a poor environment means that being of lower socioeconomic standing, there are going to be many people who are going to be seduced by a life of crime. It might be selling drugs, it might be robbing people, it might be making hits, which is basically assassination. If you grew up in this, and most of us who grew up in the so-called hood, we have probably to some degree been associated with a lot of these things, right? And in most cases, we probably have friends we went to school with, family members who are fully involved in this lifestyle. So that ends up a lot of us having friends who in the future, we just understood that we had to leave them be, we had to leave them behind. Otherwise, we would have been dragged into their type of lifestyle, which would not have been fruitful for us, right? It's a very short-lived lifestyle. And so, again, many black minorities find themselves without any friends because they've had to ditch their old friends, their childhood friends who might have been in this lifestyle, right? Because unfortunately, in many cases, even with prison time, people rarely change who they are. I've known people who in their 50s, 60s, they come out of prison and they still are seduced by that lifestyle. They still want to, steal a car. They're still looking around with that red eye because that is what they've been raised in doing. And obviously, if you are someone that wants healthy family, friendships and community, you're not going to want to hang around with these types of people. As well as being an ethnic minority, it's somewhat in society you're marginalized, right? I often think of David Beckham. David Beckham has all these tattoos around his body that if you put him side by side with a black person with the same type of tattoos, one will be perceived to be a thug or a criminal, and David Beckham will be seen as a hero, right? And, being a crude example is just an example of how the ethnic minority is not the man, quote unquote, in the countries that they inhabit. And I don't think that is a racist thing. It's just it's a resonance thing, right? You resonate with your folks in most cases. I don't expect that to be any different, but I say that to say, as an ethnic minority, it could damage or it could hinder your social interactions. In fact, many people, many migrants who come here, who I know, and they've been here more than they have been in their so-called home countries, they have no white British friends, right? And in many cases, they find it almost intimidating to befriend white British people. And I'm sure we all know of black older relatives who, when they're speaking to a white person on the phone, they put on this weird white person voice, this kind of timid voice. So it's like people can't really fully be themselves. And if you are of that demeanor, whatever it is, insecurity, maybe you feel, you know, like you're having an inferiority complex, but that will make your social potential smaller, meaning you find it harder to befriend people from other groups. But then going back to childhood and the home, we all know the stats that many in the black communities are raised by a single parent. If you're being raised in a lone parent household, then there's gonna be great feelings of neglect, right? That one parent can only be around you for so long, especially if they have multiple kids. There's only so much attention that you can get from one parent. And so over time, that neglect will build up and manifest into unresolved trauma. You feel like you've lost your childhood, you didn't get the support that you needed. And this unresolved trauma, in many cases, will not allow for people to embrace healthy relationships in the future. And this is where we see a lot of this so-called gender war on the internet, this conflict between sexes. But really, if you delve deeper, it all goes back to childhood. Usually these people had a problematic upbringing, and I'm not suggesting that all childhoods are perfect. There's nothing perfect in this world, but a lone parent being raised by a single mother or even a single father is going to be a traumatic event, and it's going to be very much imprinted on that individual. And unless it's addressed and diagnosed and understood fully, it's just going to linger and manifest into unresolved trauma. So that could be you're trying to enter relationships, but you have no trust, right? There are glaring trust issues because that is an aspect of being neglected, right? There is a safety issue, almost being abandoned, right? And so abandonment actually makes people want to evade and run away and avoid relationships. And so we find ourselves in this weird prison almost, where we want relationships deep down, but when the moment presents itself, we are not proactive. We fear actually being in a relationship, or a lot of people admire from afar. Sure, that can tie into technology as well, social media, the advent of corn, right? People relying more so on corn, and therefore it's lowering their will or energy to actually go out there and find the type of relationship that they want to be involved with. And so for me, these key areas make the situation of having no friends, no family, no relationships, it has a double impact on ethnic minorities, especially if your mindset is not calibrated in the way I believe ethnic minorities should be. Should be outgoing, should be seeking to understand the environment and the people, the culture, the predominant culture. You know, because in reality, we're going to be working for the people of the predominant culture. Even if you want to make your own business, you know, make your own industry, your experience is going to come from these people as well. Your schooling came from these people predominantly, the structures, the school system. So it's our duty, in my opinion, to get out there and fully understand the situation that we're in. Otherwise, it's going to be bleak, in my opinion. It's going to be very bleak. It's going to be, you know, people, 40, 50-year-olds walking on the streets alone. And we see this, if you look around, you might see this a lot. It's always typically black men walking the streets alone. No friends, no family, no relationship. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below. Anything you disagree with or agree with, comment below. Like the video if you like this type of video, and I'll catch you in the next one.